Hello viewers, have you ever found yourself in this situation on Gran Turismo 7? You've jumped on for a round of Manufacturers or Nations Cup and you only have one chance to get it right. Well, that's the situation I found myself in here. I jumped on for round 2 of the Manufacturers, a Group 3 race here at Deep Forest, and I only had one shot at getting this right because this is the 6 PM slot and therefore the final one. If this goes wrong, I have no chance to do better. Therefore, we're going to jump into the qualifying here in the Mercedes AMG. Now, I've picked AMG for this season as they seem to be a decent car at the moment, and I don't recall picking Mercedes as of late. I have often picked BMW. I've been a bit of a traitor to the Bavarian brand, but here we are, and we're going to try to get used to this car, adapt to it as quickly as possible around this circuit. As I say, one chance to get this right because I didn't really have time throughout the day to prepare or practice or do the other races. So we're jumping in here with a lot of learning to do. We've got to try and adapt to this circuit and this car as quickly as possible and try to secure the best result we can for the boys and girls back at the AMG factory. So rounding out my first lap, coming up towards the line. Let's see what it's going to be. As ever, it is going to be close in this type of lobby. Crossing the line with a 125.7, sorry, with a 0.2 being the fastest lap set so far. My second attempt, as you can see, going very deep into the hairpin, which lost me perhaps 0.2 or so. And through the middle sector, I had a much tidier run through here, and that ultimately resulted in a lap slightly slower, in fact. On the third lap, I knew that I could just string it all together and try to hook up the entire lap. I would move up the order. Currently, sat in 10th place, about 2/3 of a second down on pole position. So it gives you an idea of just how close it is when you start getting into towards the higher splits of the Manufacturers Cup. I'm not sure exactly what split I'm in here. Maybe 4 or 5, something like that. Through the split here, actually level with my fastest lap, but I knew that I could improve through this final sector quite a lot. Really do have to carry a lot of speed and bravery through that final section down the hill into the final corner, trying to really minimise the travel distance through here and get on the power as early as possible. So Derek behind definitely catching up, so I knew he was quicker, but we're going to cross the line with a small improvement, still a 0.7, and as you can see, way down in 11th on the grid, and so just 12th on the grid. Shows you just how close it was. In fact, I was only 0.01 behind the guy in front, and qualifying is massively important, so any preparation you can do in a practice lobby beforehand is always important. Now, I was only 0.014 behind this guy, but quite quickly it turned out that the McLaren wasn't very good off the line or with a rolling start, so we managed to draw alongside up the hill towards the hairpin on lap 1. It's a 22 lap race for context, and you have to use the medium and the soft tyre. I'm starting on the medium, and then we can bolt on the softs and go from there. So on this opening lap, just trying to keep things nice and tidy and trying to not get any damage on the car. Heavy damage in these races, and therefore you have to be super careful, especially on this opening lap when everyone is extremely close together. As we come down into this big braking zone here at the end of this back straight, it is going to choke up here a little bit. I do slightly go into the back of Manuel Rodri in front, and there's just one of these awkward moments where everyone in front kind of just slows down quite a lot. We end up bumping each other. I'm going into the back of Manuel Rodri, he's going into the back of the car in front, and the Italian ends up spinning round. An unfortunate moment there. Thankfully we've escaped without damage, although that massive slide there could have been very bad. We're going to continue here. Up in 10th place, we've gained 2 on this opening lap. No damage so far. So we just need to settle down, get into this race. Still 21 laps remaining. Plenty of time here to try to extract a good result and try to move forward in the race. So end of lap 1. Decent so far. Crossing the line, you see there, car up in front going quite defensive, and something you do have to watch out for is something we've just mentioned, which is damage. Obviously we don't have damage, but someone else could have damage, and those are the people you kind of got to watch out for. They could definitely be quite strong on their defense. I brake maybe 10 meters a bit too late there into the hairpin, and we're going to surrender a position because of that. We're here just really a bit rusty, not quite adapting to the race early enough. And this is the disadvantage you have, I suppose, when you only jump on to do the final race. By this point, most of these guys probably have done the first and the second race, whereas I'm only doing the third one. You're always at a bit of a disadvantage there with regard to simple amount of practice of the race. But here, things are going to get extremely close quarters. Some contact up in front. It's going to be a very chaotic and messy moment here up the hill. I'm going to draw to the right hand side of the GT500, and unfortunately there's a bit of contact between the three of us. We can take a quick look at that again, as you see just a small tap, and that results in me spinning round. And unfortunately now, as a result of hitting the wall, we have a 1 second penalty, just to add insult to injury. So really it's very frustrating when that happens, when you've already been penalised enough, of course, by getting damage and by losing all the positions. And then we now have a 1 second penalty to add on to the top of that. So the car a little bit unpredictable now, as you can see on the exit of that corner. We have front bumper damage and front right wheel damage as well. Top speed, as you can see on the straight, we lost quite a lot of distance there to the BMW up in front. So this is very much a damage limitation race from here, and especially this first stint. Now, I could obviously go into the pit lane as the cars in front disappear into the distance after the penalty. I could go into the pit lane now and serve this penalty and and get the damage repaired. But ideally I need to get to at least 6 or 7 laps to make the soft tyre stint work at the end of this race. And so this is just one of those frustrating stints where I'm just going to have to hang on the best I can and let the race come back to me later on. So Silent Caliber up in front, serving a penalty, and again we spoke about it just now. You see there the group in front, not too far away. We're going to try and keep them within arm's reach. But we spoke about it just now, the fact that people can get damage and could be on the back foot. Silent Caliber here, don't know how we got that penalty, but it could be a damaged car we're looking at right in front here, and therefore someone we could have an even fight with. Coming into the tunnel here in the middle sector, he goes very wide, and we're looking up the inside. He doesn't fight it. I think he just kind of lets me through there, quite aware of the level of damage he has on his car. And so no fighting, which is good. We can kind of just try our best as a duo to keep up with that group in front. You see a very big group, in fact, about 7 or 8 cars in that group. And so it's going to be really difficult to catch up given the damage I have. But if I can just stay within 2-3 seconds, then that would limit the damage and give me some sort of chance in the second half of this race after the pit stop. Our fastest lap of the race there, 28.0, then a 27.6. So the pace wasn't too bad, and as you can see by lap number 6 here, still within sight up in front, only 2.2 seconds to the car in 11th. This is a lap later at the end of 7. A couple of cars have already gone in, so we have gained a few positions because of that. But now at the end of 7, we're going to draw to the right hand side and come into the pit lane as well. It looks like Silent Caliber behind cut the pit lane entry. Actually, I think he decided to stay out in the end. There, we're going to lose 4 seconds repairing this damage, which is quite frustrating, but it's going to have to be done because the car was so slow on the straight. We were definitely losing quite a lot of time every straight. So after it gets repaired, we're back out onto the circuit. Now this is where the car is at its strongest, I'd say. Coming out of the pit lane, we can finally try to push forward. I mean, we're going to have to, as you can see, I'm in 16th, I'm in dead last. So it can only really get better from here. And I suppose this is a lesson. I mean, I could have easily hit the start button and then exit the race. Could have easily been a rage quit. As you can see the cars in front, just within eye shot, as you can see on the map as well. Giving me some faint glimmer that we can actually draw some result out of this. As I say, it's the last slot. I don't have any time to go into another race and try to get a better result. This is it. I have to get the result here and now. Therefore, we're going to push as hard as we can. As I was saying, this could have easily been a rage quit kind of race, but we've stuck at it. We're going to learn as much as we can and try to push forward. There's always something you can learn, actually, and often it's the races where you're at the back where you learn the most. So Silent Caliber there goes into the pit lane, meaning I'm no longer in last place, which is a lovely feeling. And in this part of the race, I sense that I am just beginning to gain on the cars in front. There's actually quite a big group. One of the cars in front actually served a penalty, maybe 3 or 4 positions in front. So this would take some time. We've still got 13 laps in this race. And as you can probably tell as we come into this hairpin, the 10th time, the cars in front are beginning just to come towards me. And therefore we've got a chance definitely of moving forward here from 15th position. As we're looking at the BMW and the Genesis in front. The Genesis not too good at the moment in Group 3, definitely being nerfed quite a lot because it was one of the strongest, if not the strongest car in Group 3. So here, finally on lap 10, we have a chance of moving forward and gaining a position. So let's see if we can do that here into the middle sector. Really trying to minimise travel distance. Genesis goes quite wide, very nice livery, the classic McLaren paint job there. And looking just in front as well, the battle for 11th, a couple of McLarens there fighting over that position. And the McLaren being a very strong car, and I think it's a brand that many people would have picked for this season, given its very good tyre wear. It's a very good car overall, but not when it's spinning out like that in the background of the shot. We're going to gain a position for free there with the spinning McLaren getting sent into barrier unceremoniously. And now we can move up the inside of Mano Rodri up behind the Genesis. We're going to bump draft him through to gain another position. So that's 2 in quite quick succession there. Looking up the inside, not going to go for it into the hairpin. Going to try and drag race him down the back straight. Small bump on the exit, but no damage to report of at this point. Ideally, I think I need to get past this Genesis as quickly as I can. I've caught up somewhat quickly. I think I have the race pace. In fact, my last lap, or lap 9, was a 25.8, which is only 0.2 off the faster lap in the race so far. Up the inside we go, and I think Dizzy there made that one quite easy. Didn't really fight it too much. And so we're not really going to lose too much time. That's good. At the moment now, 1.7 seconds behind the McLaren in front, driven by the Greek driver. So that's our next target. We're going to try and push on as much as we can. We're halfway into the race, so plenty of time still to move forward and gain some more positions. I started the race in 12th, and so I'm back to where I started, which after all of this gone on, the damage, the penalty, the or just all the shenanigans early on, I think it's not too bad to move back to where I started. And so we can still actually gain positions from here. So crossing the line, end of lap 11, halfway into the race now. We are just clear here of the Genesis, and that was one of my worries. I didn't want to have to be drawn into a battle with them every lap, so I've got to try and gap these cars as quickly as possible. This is lap 12 then. I'm actually 2.5 seconds in front of the Genesis now, so there's no real concern about being overtaken. It really is all about trying to set these consistent laps and trying to gain on this McLaren in front. The McLaren in front was extremely quick. Even though these laps were quite quick and consistent, I wasn't really gaining all that much. What I was looking at though is more so the group in front of the McLaren rather than the McLaren itself. One of the cars goes into the pit lane there, so we are going to gain a position here and move back into 11th. And as you can see, there is that group. I think it's actually only 2 cars. It's the Lexus of Derek and someone else, I'm not sure at this point, but we're just looking at that little battle there, considering the possibility of catching up. Previous lap, lap 12, was a 25.6, about a 10th off the faster lap. This lap could have been the faster lap of the race if not for that mistake coming out of the final corner. Another 25.6, a good consistency with a good pace here. 1.1 seconds the gap to the McLaren, so we've gained about 0.6 over the last 4 or 5 laps. I'm definitely in the ascendancy here, and this lap felt very hooked up, very connected. And so going into this race, I had minimal practice with this Mercedes AMG on this circuit with tyre wear under all the factors that we are racing under right here. But now on lap 14, I feel like I'm in the zone. I'm actually understanding the car, getting accustomed to it, and on a good pace. And so coming out of the final corner, we really get a good exit there. And proof of our improvement thus far in the race is that 25.4, fastest lap of the race so far. Makes you wonder what could have happened or could have been if I had qualified, let's say, in the top 5 even the top 3, and move forward from there. With this sort of pace, I think I could have had a very good result had I started towards the front and not in the middle, which is where you often do tend to find yourself in and amongst all of the trouble and a lot of the incidents. So definitely qualifying is something I should target. That's something I'm thinking about here on this race. And it's really difficult to push forward and have a good result when you're starting 12th on the grid. The best you can really hope for is maybe scrape a top 5 if things really fall your way. But MGX Magic's there, conjuring himself up a penalty at the end of lap 15, serving it here on lap 16, and that's going to be another position that we're going to gain as he slows right down. The penalty zone really does harm you quite a lot here on this circuit. So we're going to move back into the top 10, which, to be honest, after everything that's happened in this race so far, that is a pretty good position to find myself in. I know it's not ideal, you want to be winning the race ideally, or at least on the podium, but I will certainly take it. My pace and consistency has been quite good, so that's something to take forward into the next round at Mount Panorama. And so the next thing I'm considering here is, well, A, the McLaren has very good tyre wear. As you can see now, as we reach the latter stages of the race, the McLaren in front and the McLaren behind there are actually hitting the wall, so we're going to actually gain a bit of time there and not have so much close attention from behind. And the McLaren in front just beginning to edge clear as he actually performs a nice little switcheroo on the Lexus, dives up the inside, and it didn't really lose the Lexus as much time as I would have liked. I was definitely having a keen eye on this Lexus in front, and even the GT500, the yellow one there, up in 8th. So I was in the ascendancy by this latter stage of the race. I knew I was moving forward. So 8th place was actually possible, which is kind of crazy thinking about it. When I came out of the pit lane at the end of lap 7, and I was in last place. But unfortunately, that wall contact there scuppered my chances of moving forward a position. The 1 second penalty, really, really harsh, because I was just beginning here to gain on 8th place, and I'm not saying I would have got those positions, but at least to be in with a chance of maybe getting one of them would have been quite nice. But that pretty much killed my opportunity of moving up another place. So after all of that, with minimal practice, jumping into this race at the last moment and across the line in 10th, which might not sound that good, but I think given the circumstances of the race, I'm quite happy with it. And there it is, up 2 positions in 10th place overall. 210 points for the race, not my best total. Ideally I'd need to be getting towards 300 or above 300. But to be honest, it was one of those races where I knew that I didn't have much chance to practice going into it. I only had 1 chance to do the race. So sometimes, you know what, as bad as this race started out with a very average qualifying and then a pretty bad opening to the race, I think it was a good comeback to be able to actually work out how to drive this car, get a good pace out of it, get the fastest lap at one point in the race, and race pace was decent. So there's definitely still some takeaways from this one. It's a situation that many of you may well find yourself in from time to time where, you know what, you can only jump on and do the last race or one race, and therefore you have to make it count. So even though the result wasn't perfect, I still think there's a lot of learning done in this race, which is the main thing. But I hope you enjoyed it as ever, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Goodbye.